Hey guys, welcome everyone to our next edition of our class notes from yesterday night's Bagwajang class. So we started off with a general warm-up, preparing all the joints and especially the hip area for the snake smooth body palm, where we focused on different sets of repetitions where we first kept our upper body straight and upright. We then used a hip hinge to lean our upper body into a 45-degree angle, and with the last set of repetitions here, we try to move our upper body into a horizontal line, so hip hinge and leaning forward to almost 90 degrees. That's a classic set of exercises that I like to do before I practice the actual snake smooth body palm. By the way, if you hear my voice, I have not been drinking whiskey last night. I just caught another cold. I think that's the third one this year. Well, so this was the first part of our class, which took about 30 minutes. We continued with Tiangan to move upward from the strengthening and mobilization of the hips to strengthening, lengthening the spine and the back muscles with this Tiangan exercise here, Tiangan number 1, and of course the second version as well, Tiangan 1A and 1B, so to say. First one really exercising the uplifting of the spine, and the second exercise focusing on opening the area of your ribs, as you've all practiced in Bagwajang classes or in online courses before. So turning here, opening the area of the ribs, and then turning to the other side. Very powerful internal work. Remember the breathing pattern of breathing in when you turn and breathing out when you lead your hand over your head. From there we went to the practice of the snake smooth body palm, where we started off with very detailed instructions of the solo positions. And I said that in each and every palm change, we have certain anchor points or pit stops where we want to align our body and our structure perfectly into different directions in space. And that when you see it from the outside as a spectator, you wouldn't necessarily see those pit stops because you only see a very fluent motion in the palm changes. But as the practitioner, even if you move really fast or smoothly through the palm changes, you always stay aware of those pit stops and the perfect alignment that you've practiced in those more robotic sets of repetitions, as we did here. We also did a little bit of pressure testing. I didn't film this, so for each and every position, we tried to understand how pressure from the outside challenges our alignment and how we need to align and put our structure so that we can really absorb the force coming from the outside. So it was time for some group practice here. A couple of new students in the room, so everyone had to get used to the snake smooth body palm change. Right now we have an interesting mix of people who are with us for more than 10 years and fresh people just a few weeks in. So we then moved into partner exercises, and last week we talked about Li Zhang, the fifth form of the first line, but now we took a step back because there were so many beginners in this room to explain a basic idea of the human body and how we can, in a fighting situation, make use of alignment for ourselves, but also how to destroy the alignment of our opponent or partner. So starting off with the theory that our spine can move in 3 different planes. We have flexion and extension, sideways leaning, and the rotation. And if you just move a human body into one direction, like here, it takes quite a long time before the the structure actually breaks and the person falls depending on their mobility and strength. So extension here in the spine at some point, of course, makes her fall. Leaning her only sideways takes quite a while, and turning her spine takes forever until she finally needs to step, but she will not fall. And in order to make a person fall, it is in general that we try to combine two directions. So for example, we have the flexion of the spine here combined with rotation, and we see that as soon as two directions move through the spine, two planes of motion, then the person is not able to uphold the structure and falls. Another important point is that we have different directions where we could push or pull our opponent. And if we see Simone standing here with two legs in a hip wide stance, it's obvious that the weak points are if someone pushes from the back or pushes from the front, so she would just fall. And if she would have a staggered stance, then it would be a 45-degree angle. Or the easy way to calculate this is if you draw a line between the 2 feet and then you cross the line, then you have those 2 points where she can fall easily because there is no post that holds her back from falling. The problem only occurs if we get in touch with our partner or opponent. Suddenly we have 4 posts instead of 2. And this makes for a little bit more complicated applications. So we not only need to combine 2 planes of motion in the spine, but we also need to create an open space where she can actually fall into. So if I have sideways leaning and rotation here, and behind her is the open space, there is nothing that would hold her back from falling. Very simple concept, of course, but often neglected. And so one more time, if I move her sideways, the normal reaction for her in order to prevent the fall would be to step. So there is a post, and this post is holding her up, so I can't make her fall. So there's different variations of how to avoid that. The first and very obvious one is to block her legs from stepping. So I have her sideways, I push her sideways, I add the rotation, and through stepping behind her leg, I prevent her from stepping back, and so she has no post and falls. That's one way to avoid her steps, and the second one would be to take away one of her legs, but this is for later. So the first exercise for now that we started is that we take our partner, and in a very cooperative way, we see how we can move the body and the spine. So for example, here in this wrestling and clinching position, if I pull her to myself, I pull her straight into my leg. So I have to move my leg away, create the space, and then add 2 directions to her spine. The first one was the flexion, and then I added the rotation, and I created an open space through stepping back so she could fall into that open space. Very important concept, and if you understand this, you can basically analyze each and every takedown you will ever see. There's 1,000 variations, 1,000 techniques on how to take a person down, but in the end, it always breaks down to those simple and basic rules. And if you try to apply a certain takedown and it doesn't work, try to analyze first. How am I moving the spine? Is there actually a space where I can make her fall into, or your partner? As I said, there's 1,000 techniques for takedowns, and obviously you will always need to move the spine in order to break her alignment. There's many ways, and as farther away from the spine you start to manipulate her body, the harder it is to manipulate it. So I could, through bending her wrist at this in this example, also move her spine. Then I stepped on her foot so she couldn't create a post, and that's why she fell. We then moved into the exercise of, let's call it wax people. So I move her and she stays in the position that I moved her into, like she would be made of wax. So she is turning and I keep this position, and then she adds a second direction and she makes me trip. Okay, that's the exercise to do with a partner. a very fun one, and there's 1,000 possibilities on how to make someone fall. The second part of the exercise is much more interesting. It's kind of Tuisho. So we just basically push and pull ourselves around, and the object of this exercise is to simply understand in how many different ways I can move her spine into the different planes of motion. So I could pull her hands, I could turn her wrist, I could block her elbows, I can grab her neck, I can pull her shoulders, and basically it's still a very cooperative practice. Nobody's really fighting, but we are trying different methods and different ways to manipulate the spine. Very fun exercise, and usually a great entry point into making people understand the basic concepts of takedowns. So we just kept playing here. I am pushing her, she is pushing me, but we don't actually take us down. It's just really monitoring how we can influence the alignment of our partner, how we can manipulate the spine in order to break this alignment. Then we went to the application of the snake smooth body palm. There's a couple, and basically the most important application of the snake smooth body palm is a knee tap. So a knee tap takedown. And there's different directions where we can take this knee tap. But the basic idea again is here that we create a direction in our opponent's spine. We add a second direction, and then we tap the knee so she can't make the necessary step to avoid the fall. So here I lift her shoulder, I tilt her body to the left, and then I tap her knee. I block her knee with my left hand so she can't make the step, and she needs to fall. Again, from the clinching position, I lift her shoulder, I add the rotation, and I tap the knee on the left side so she can't make the step and needs to fall down. That's one simple application of the snake smooth body palm, and we will talk about many other applications of this beautiful form in later weeks. Again, I'm tilting her sideways, so that you see the movement of the spine. I add rotation at the end and block or tap her knee so she has to fall into the open space and she can't post with her leg. One more time from the clinching position. I tilt her upper body, I tap with my hand, I block her knee from stepping so she will fall into the open space. Simple application of the snake smooth body palm. And it doesn't matter if you tap, if you block the knee with your hand, if you block it with your knee, if you block it with your foot in hooking. It just matters that you block the motion of your opponent so he or she needs to fall down. And that's it. Class notes number 4.